it going, sports fans? This is Jack, Jason, Ryan, and Ethan on the Talking Jack Sports podcast. This is the first time with 4 people. A momentous occasion. How's everyone doing?
I'm fantastic.
I'm doing pretty good.
Everyone's so polite. You're like, no, you can go.
Yeah.
You can talk first.
The Southern gentleman, you know?
Yeah, of course. We're all classic Southern gentlemen. And today, we will be talking about the NBA for the first time in a long time. And because one of us doesn't know a whole lot about basketball, I thought we should supplant that with 2 people that do. So this is Jason. Welcome to the podcast, Jason. Clap it up for Jason.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome to the podcast,
Thank
Jason.
you.
Do I need to introduce my guy?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so hailing from the great state of Louisiana, standing at a whopping 5'3", we got Ethan Boyd.
I'm happy to be
Hey,
here.
clap it up. He's holding the mic, so just
Yeah.
know he's clapping.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for being on the pod, guys. Thank you for being one crutch each on Ryan's arms to have someone that knows what they're talking about for the NBA. So
I'm getting
that's
better. I
that's
swear.
fun.
Getting
So
better.
we're gonna get his confidence up by starting off by talking about not the NBA, because the Super Bowl was a week ago, and for the record, Ryan and I both got our predictions right. We both had the Chiefs. So good job to us, but even better job because we had this prediction before the season even started. Y'all don't even
Yes,
know about
sir.
this. We had Chiefs Niners on the season preview episode. We had this before the season started. We're crazy. But now we get to talk about the aftermath. And Ryan has some questions to ask us to warm up.
All right, so starting off, I feel like we can just say how we all feeling about that Super Bowl. Are we surprised? You know?
I'm not
I'd
surprised
say
about
no.
the outcome.
Not surprised at all. I
Yeah.
expect the Chiefs.
Mahomes.
All the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I think it's
starting
like the
off,
best Super Bowl we've had in a while.
it was
it was
pretty
really good.
entertaining.
It
I
was.
mean, overtimes are always fun. You know, it's happened twice. We don't talk about the other one, but this one was pretty good. But starting off with the actual game, what do you think the biggest factors were for the Chiefs winning? Let's just start with that.
Ethan, you start.
Yeah, so I definitely think, the biggest factor, I said it a couple minutes ago, it's Patrick frickin' Mahomes. You know, I don't want to sound like Chris Collinsworth here, but the dude's kind of unreal. He has an arm, his sidearm throws, he made some incredible throws throughout the game. And, he's just always been that dude that, they can bank on. And he just never really fails to – his scrambling ability is just kind of just insane. And he's kind of developed, honestly, throughout his time in the league at just being more, shifty. He just has this combination of, like a Tom Brady mindset with a Russell Wilson shiftiness. I don't know. He is just their big factor, and then just the fact that his weapons all year have let him down, but it's he just didn't let them let him down this game. He's just really crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's a good analysis. Excellent analysis there. I think in this game specifically, what brought them to this point was the defensive back play. Specifically that of Trent McDuffie, who the entire evening was making highlight reel plays every drive. I think of the one in the end zone, that PD, I forget who he was trying to deliver it to, but that was just a really athletic play by a guy that not a ton of people had on their radar until they saw the All-Pros come out.
Yep.
And on a national stage, McDuffie showed why he is a one-of-one kind of talent. And I think he, beyond Mahomes, of course, that guy, he was a little impactful in the win. But the defensive backs specifically, if of any group on the defense, I would say made some really great plays.
Yeah, I agree with that. Another person that I think really impacted the game in them not playing due to injury was Dre Greenlaw.
Yes.
And his injury.
I was about to say that. That was going to be my
Stepping
big
onto the
point.
field, one of the best linebackers in the league, part of the best duo in the league, I think, of him and
Yeah.
Fred Warner. I think that injury really shaped the way that the game went, for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say that a lot because with Fred Warner only being having to cover Travis Kelce, they didn't have another linebacker that could fill in that spot nearly as well. Another thing that I would say was just the special teams for the Niners really went down hard. I'm not gonna blame them a whole lot on the muff punt because that punt was kind of insane, hitting the dude's foot. But you should recover that at the end of the day. And a missed PAT is sole reason why we went to overtime.
Yeah, true.
Um, another thing I would just mention was, Patrick Mahomes did Patrick Mahomes thing, and I think this game was fully decided based off of like a handful of plays, like both fumbles. The Niners really got unlucky. I think the Chiefs fumbled like 5 times and only recovered once.
Yes,
There
that's
was
exactly
some
what happened.
like that's just unlucky at that point. So I would say the Chiefs did play better in that second half, but sometimes luck does matter, and it was not with the Niners.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're gonna talk about post Super Bowl stuff. How does this change the Niners and the Chiefs? Do we think we're gonna see both of them at the Super Bowl some point down the line, or not at any chance?
Well, I know we saw, I believe like it was yesterday or 2 days ago that they fired Steve Wilkes, their defensive coordinator. That was a shocker. That's a big deal. That's a big move. Honestly, pretty surprising considering, I thought they played pretty stellar defense throughout the year, but I know in the Super Bowl it kind of
even in that first half too, they shut him out, or not shut him out, but they did pretty good.
But for me, I think that the 49ers, this is around where they should be. A lot of people forget Brock Purdy. He plays with this veteran presence, but I mean the dude is in his second year right in the league. So I really think that they should be pretty happy getting to the Super Bowl with they got to the conference last year. I know Purdy got hurt, but I think this is a good step for them, and it's certainly not it's a disappointment, but it's not the end of the world scenario. They have a pretty young team, so I think they have a really bright future with everything.
So I actually have a bit of a different take on the Niners. I think it was encouraging in some aspects, but I feel like this was kind of the year for them to get it done. And if it's not this year, I don't see how they build off of it into a better opportunity in the near future, because there's guys in the defense that you have to either replace or re-sign, like Chase Young, who I made some pretty negative comments about last episode, and for good reason given his playoff run. But he is, and was in the Super Bowl especially, a pretty impactful force. There's a lot of money tied up in guys like Nick Bosa, Javon Hargrave, Fred Warner. You have to lock up guys in the secondary like Hufanga, who didn't even play the second half of the year. Greenlaw, what are you going to do with him after the Achilles injury? And on offense, Brandon Ayuk, he just soft requested a trade, kind of. I don't know if y'all saw that. I don't really know what's going on with this situation. But he has another year on his deal, and he said he wants to be paid. But it's like they have a team option. It's just a really odd situation with him. And Purdy is, I would say, the highlight of the team, because a guy on a contract like his, that's the most team friendly you can really get in the league. That's really encouraging, but it's tough to see how you build around him, especially with a guy like Trent Williams, who's on his way out, still at the peak of his career, and I think will be pretty much until he announces his retirement. But he's going to be tough to replace when the time comes. So I'm curious to see how they respond.
Yeah, honestly, I think they have the 49ers. I think they have one more year, one more solid contender year if they keep Ayuk, especially because he's their number one receiver at the moment. He just had a career year, just really identified himself as a top 10 receiver in the league. I think one more solid year of contending, and then they'll have to re-up Purdy, who will want a bigger salary, obviously, than whatever he has now, less than $1 million a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we could see that Super Bowl matchup again next year, but after that, it's not looking good for the Niners.
I was going to say, when you have a team that has so many, all-pro superstars, dudes are going to come knocking, and it's going to start this offseason, and I think it's just going to get progressively more, worse. I think this was definitely the peak of it. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him make a deep run next year or the year after, but it's this was the year to really do it, and especially when the Chiefs didn't look nearly as good as they have in previous years. So
for sure.
I would say it's not over for them, but it's not looking too likely, because you also have the Lions, who are getting better, the Eagles, who I honestly have no idea, but they're probably going to be better. You have a lot of teams that have a high upside at the moment in the NFC. So it will be even harder to win. It felt kind of like it was easy for them to win, apart from the Lions. And
this was the weakest year the NFC's had in a minute, and it's only getting better.
Alrighty, so moving on. This is not really a discussion for me, but Patrick Mahomes versus Tom Brady. Who's better right now? Just go down the line and say the player. Start with you.
Tom Brady.
Okay.
Tom Brady.
Okay.
I would say, as of now, Tom Brady is decidedly better all time.
Yes. Okay. So we all agree Tom Brady is better. I've just been
Right.
seeing it on TikTok where it's like, guys, it's actually really close. It's not close. It's not close. Shut up.
And it won't be close until he wins, I would say, 4 more rings at least.
Yeah, until 7. Probably.
And even when they get to 7, the unfortunate thing about this debate is that Brady will still have the effective tiebreaker because their careers overlap for 5 years. And during those 5 years, Brady met him in the playoffs twice and beat him both times, including the Super Bowl. So
exactly. This honestly kind of seems like a reverse, like LeBron James versus Michael Jordan thing. It's like Mahomes could do like the perfect streak or whatever you say, but he's not gonna beat the Tom Brady's longevity or anything like that. It's not close.
Can I kind of twist your question for a second? Do y'all think that this is a start of like a new like dynasty like the Patriots had?
100%.
It definitely is.
Yeah, I mean,
it already kind of is, but
yeah.
Yes.
Also, seeing side note, there was people saying, "Oh, we want Tom Brady back." Nobody wants Tom Brady back. Shut up, okay?
Yeah, seriously, who's saying they want him back in the league?
They're like, we must let him beat Mahomes. Like, shut up. Mahomes is at least slightly interesting to watch sometimes.
That's what I'm saying. I rooted for the Chiefs in the Super Bowl because I'm in favor of greatness. And Brady, his career overall was the definition of greatness. But if you watch him play, it's wild to me that he ends up as the best of all time. Mahomes is like if Aaron Rodgers actually had the career we all knew he was capable of. That's how I would look at it.
If Aaron Rodgers was more winning.
Tom Brady is looks like Mac Jones sometimes up there.
Yeah, seriously.
I was gonna say Tom Brady at his best was just not losing you games and winning them. Like there wasn't any crazy comebacks for the most part. He was just really good at going down the field and scoring. Meanwhile, Mahomes has struggled to win games occasionally, and also I feel like whenever it's end with him, it gets way more entertaining. Maybe this is script writers cooking, but
Keegan-Michael Key's cooking in the back rooms.
Lastly, I have the Brock Purdy thing of is he a game manager still, or is he actually a solid quarterback? People have used this Super Bowl saying, "Oh, this is proof that he can't win a Super Bowl." And is a game manager. And I disagree with that. I think he is pretty good. I mean, he has good weapons, so he's going to be good. But if you actually see him play, he's not a Mac Jones. He's not a Tua. He's noticeably better.
I would say that the Super Bowl, despite the loss, proved to me that Purdy is a real competent NFL quarterback. And what did it for me is I saw someone, I can't remember who it was, but I saw someone compare the careers of Brock Purdy and Joe Burrow. And they are remarkably similar so far. Like Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy are surrounded by at least a top 3 skill position group in the league each. And Burrow suffered an injury in his first year. Obviously, one was in the regular season and the other was in the NFC title game. But they both came back the next year and took their teams to Super Bowls. So it's really remarkable what they've both done. And when you look at it from polar opposite parts of the draft, literally as far apart as you can get. So people look at Burrow like a top 3 quarterback in the league consensus, and they look at Purdy like a game manager, when really they've done a wildly similar amount with a crazy skill position core to each their own.
Yeah, I always hate the argument about they have good players around their quarterback. It's like every good quarterback has somebody who's insane. Like if they're a good quarterback, you can name at least 1 or 2 people who are top 5 in their position. For the most part.
Yeah. I think Brock Purdy, I think he's beat the game manager allegations for sure. I mean, the first half of the Super Bowl, you saw he was darting people up. He was playing great. I mean, I think the second half struggles, that just has to be accredited to the fact that he's still a second-year quarterback. I mean, he was Mr. Irrelevant. He's not supposed to be where he is now, but he is. He's not a game manager, and he's a lot better than people give him credit for sure.
Yeah, if you're the last one in the pick, I think most people expect you to be fighting for a 53-man spot, not being your starting quarterback in the Super Bowl at year 2. So,
Did y'all hear that interview with Kyle Shanahan where he was talking about how he went to the GM and said, like, I think our third string quarterback's our best quarterback? I don't know if you saw
I
that.
didn't. Did he really say that?
Yeah,
He did.
you know, he said that like
Wow.
whenever they still had like Garoppolo and Trey, like that he like went to the GM and said that, and the GM looked at him like he was crazy. But look where we're at now. So
alrighty. So, unfortunately for me, I'm out of questions. So
That means
let's,
I get to ask some
let's
questions.
talk about Taylor Swift. No, I'm joking. We're not.
Please no.
Yeah, let's keep that. Let's keep that away.
Let's keep moving. Keep it moving.
Yeah, keep that to the Super Bowl. Hopefully that's a story that doesn't continue into the offseason. But now that there is a lack of content in the NFL, we shift to the NBA, something we haven't talked about in a while. And it definitely isn't because Ryan needs to be educated, but
I'm
a
trying my
great
best.
time to do it today. We have a couple of points to talk about in basketball. The trade deadline recently passed, so we're going to go over a lot of the trades were just like pretty nothing moves. So we've isolated 6 trades that we feel like are the most impactful, and some of them weren't deadline trades. They happened like a month ago, but we're still going to talk about them because we haven't yet. So here we go. So we're going to start off with Terry Rozier being dealt to the Heat. This was pretty impactful because the Heat needed a spark plug on offense. Jimmy hasn't been playing the best this year, and the Heat as a whole have really fallen off of where they were last year. So Rozier seemed like a solid fit, but as it stands right now, it's been an interesting kind of team chemistry, team fit for Rozier in Miami. I would give the Heat for acquiring Rozier a B-, and the Hornets for getting Kyle Lowry and buying him out, and a lottery protected first, a C. What about you guys?
Yeah, actually, very similar grades for me. I think it's just kind of Kyle Lowry's time with the Heat. You know, they were kind of here, but it was always kind of weird because they drafted Tyler Hero, and his play exceeded, I'm sure, what they expected from him in such short time. So really, I think it was just kind of like that weird fit. So I think Rozier kind of fits like their timeline a little better. He's a little bit younger, you know, and just kind of like he can work in the rotation a little bit better than Kyle Lowry. So I'd also say around like I gave him more like a B. And then as far as the Hornets, around like a C2, they kind of are gathering picks this deadline. So I think they did
for
good.
sure.
Yeah, I agree. For the Hornets, definitely like around a C, maybe C plus for getting a first rounder out of somebody who some people wouldn't value with a first rounder. But either way, it's a great stepping stone to their future. They're obviously trying to rebuild. For the Heat, I would give it a B to a B plus, just because Terry Rozier, he's a great scorer, can take the ball, shoot it, drive it, whatever you need him to do. They've got great pieces around. Obviously, Jimmy Butler's the main guy. And then they've got him. They've got Bam Adebayo. They've got Tyler Hero. They've got Jaime Jaquez Jr. They've got a solid group that can work in the playoffs now because of that trade.
Alrighty. Before I
Hey, someone hasn't given their thoughts.
Well, I was gonna say before I say this question: how high value are like picks for the NBA compared to?
Oh my
the
gosh,
NFL?
this really is just an education sesh.
like just double checking because I kind of.
So the value of an NFL first round pick, okay? Take that
Mm-hmm.
and then take it down by like 4 notches. That's how the NBA values first rounders.
Shit. Okay. This will be fun. So I gave the Heat a B because when I was doing all my research, it did look like they needed a guy, and you know, he's a guy who can play pretty well, pretty solid.
This is some elite analysis.
I know. What can I say? And then I gave the Hornets I'm gonna just be honest here. I gave them an A because I thought first round picks were, you know, I knew that they were kind of trash, so I'm like, they're just, you know, they just need some pick mode, and I'm like, you know, if they get a free like a nice first rounder, you know. So like,
I think that was the best.
You may as well get it.
You know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it is an interesting way to look at it because it was a lottery protected pick and it's all the way in 2027. So you can make the argument that they probably will get that pick because the Heat will be good for long enough to stay out of the lottery. But still, they might not even get that pick. So this could end up being a very nothing trade for the Hornets. So Ryan, you get to actively change your grades as we go along based on the information about picks.
Okay, based on that
Yeah.
information, the fact that the Hornets basically traded away for potentially nothing, I'm probably gonna lower that down to like a B minus C.
Okay. I think that's fair. I
think
mean, again, all opinions are valid. They are opinions, but only if they are based on facts.
they're trying to be educated, you know.
Yeah, we're getting you up there. Hopefully, by the end of the season, maybe you'll be all good. Surprise guest.
Yeah, surprise guest.
What?
You're good. You could just do your thing. We're doing the podcast because I suck at matching things here.
Are we gonna make it 5? 5 for
Nah,
the first time ever?
You're good.
Mom, we're doing the podcast.
Mom, who's your pick for MVP?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first of the 2 trades we have from a month ago, and here's the bigger one. So Pascal Siakam finally gets his trade from the Raptors, something that's been talked about since basically they won the title. He's been in talks. And this is a 3-team deal, but I decided to not grade the Pelicans because they gave away picks and got cash. That's such a nothing move. I'm not grading them for that. But the Raptors, so they got Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora. This is Ryan's deal. He typically will not know how to pronounce names, so this is a fun exercise for me. What is it?
Noir.
Okay. Kira Lewis, 2 firsts from this upcoming draft, and then a conditional from the 2026. I would say that's a decent haul for the Raptors to get for a guy who's been on the block for so long. So I gave them a B for it because it fits their timeline, right? They needed to rebuild. They couldn't have just sat in mediocrity land for any longer. But more importantly, the Pacers actually get the superstar in this deal. Well, superstar is maybe a bit much, but a really, really, really good NBA player. And he fits their team a lot. I would say he works pretty well with their offensive scheme. They need a guy that can take the load off of Tyrese, who has been just dealing with so much on this team. And I would say it's gone pretty well so far. Started off a little shaky, but he's been settling in as of late. So I'd give it a B+.
Yeah.
Ryan sees his grade was accurate.
Relatively similar. I think with the Raptors, like you said, since the title, they've been trying to get this guy out for a long time. But yeah, I agree. They're kind of going with like a younger timeline, which is probably what they need to do at this point. Like you said, the Pacers, they got like that superstar guy that I think they really needed to play next to Miles Turner. And yeah, they've already had some crazy highlights. They had that one where Tyrese threw it off the backboard and kicked it to the corner to Pascal. That was kind of cool.
That was nice. I do remember that.
That was very nice. Yeah, but so for the Pacers, I mean, honestly, like A-. I think they kind of nailed this trade. And then the Raptors, I think they could have maybe gotten a bigger return, but once you look at the pick compensation, it kind of makes it feel a little bit better. I mean, because it was 2 firsts and a pick swap.
So it doesn't look like a pick swap. It looks like the Pacers got a second on top of that, and they didn't receive any firsts. So yeah.
Exactly. And I'm a Pelicans fan, so Kyra Lewis to the Raptors. He was a pretty good player, so I hope he gets this opportunity. But so I'd probably give the Raptors like a B+.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm probably in the same boat as you are on that. I would give Pacers an A-. They have a solid young team to build around. Siakam's a great veteran presence in the locker room. I'm sure they can be contenders, maybe not this year, but definitely for the next couple of years to come. As for the Raptors, they got some solid young role players like Kyra Lewis. He's young. He's got potential in the league. Jordan Noir is a great role player, great scorer for the Bucks. And before that at Louisville, I watched him a lot. He was a solid player. Bruce Brown, another solid role player. Got picks. I mean, I think A- for them too. I think both teams won the trade.
Okay, I didn't do too bad with this one. I gave the Pacers a B+ because they did get a relatively good player. Then I gave the Raptors an A just because they got a few young just a few young people. And then once again, I still value first round picks. When I hear that, I'm like, those are some pretty useful things. So two firsts sounds really cool to me, and a conditional 2026 one sounds pretty fun. So I was like, I think that's about an A. So I gave Raptors an A. And then I said Pelicans C just because I don't know what, like, that just seems mid. Like, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
you save money and
Yeah.
you give away somebody.
Honestly,
sure.
I just kind of know about this. So that line saved the Pels from the luxury tax, that trade. So I'm sure the organization would give that like an A because they don't like paying it. So, yeah. So good trade.
Yeah, that's smart. I would say, Ryan, you valued the picks more realistically in this one because in the previous deal, the pick was lottery protected and all the way in 2027. But this one, there are 2 picks for this upcoming draft, which can really accelerate a rebuild. So I would say those picks are valued much higher than what was dealt before. So
Yeah, I forget that in the NBA, you can just sell your first round pick for like the next 20 years or something like that. And
yeah, there are deals left and right. It's like, okay, you get my first next century. It's like, oh yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so now we move to the real deadline stuff, and this one I would say of the trades has the least. It doesn't have that one star guy, but it just involves some pieces that can take a team over the top, like the Knicks, who were kind of sitting in that weird space where it's like, are they a contender or are they just like solid, like a second round exit type of deal? But they find a couple of guys from the worst team in the NBA and bring them in to contribute to winning for once. The Knicks get Alec Burks, Bojan Bogdanovic, and give up Evan Fournier, Malachi Flynn, Quentin Grimes, who actually is a solid piece that they have to give up, so that's something to consider. Ryan, I'm not going to pronounce his last name, 2 future seconds in cash. So I would say the Knicks won this deal for sure. They had to give away Quentin Grimes, but I think it was a necessary sacrifice to get a guy like Burks who has familiarity with the team, with the coach, and Bojan, who is a veteran presence and a startable guy. So I would say the Knicks, to me, without really giving much up that was super, super impactful, get an A. And the Pistons, they get a C+. I mean, it's really kind of a nothing trade for them. They're just making moves.
This was an absolute fleece by the Knicks.
Yes,
Quentin Grimes, yes. You were kind of putting it nicely. I feel like they gave up almost nothing for Alec Burks, who's a guy that they let go when they probably really shouldn't have. So that was kind of a little silly move by them, but now they got him back now. And then Bojan, I mean, this is a dude that people were talking about over the offseason going for like 2 first-round picks and the Pistons rejected. So, like, I just think that his play has just been absolutely stellar. It's gotten so much better as he's gotten older. This was like a really good win now move for them that could really boost them.
Yeah, I agree. Knicks did all they needed to right here. I mean, Alec Burks, great shooter. Bojan Bogdanovic, great shooter. They're both great all-around players, better than anybody that the Knicks gave up. And, I mean, Quentin Grimes, young player, good shooter. Archie Diacono, probably the only thing about him is that Villanova connection, breaking that up a little bit. But besides that, great trade for the great trade for the Knicks. A for them, and D for the Pistons.
What you got, Ryan?
I'm sorry for laughing.
I have maybe made a grave mistake here, and
No. What did you say?
So I'm gonna just say this.
I just want to roast you.
I'm gonna go through my logic here, so it sounds slightly justifiable for what I'm about to say. I know, basketball, there's a lot more rotational stuff happening than football does, so I feel like having a nice depth, for a roster is pretty useful. Once again, I think the people that the Knicks got were pretty good. So I did give the Knicks an A-. However, I may or may not have given the Pistons an A. Because I also saw
I'd love to hear this one.
I saw, they got first round picks, and once again,
They did.
Those future second round. I didn't even read the thing right. That's on me. I did not see that. Okay, yeah, I messed up on that one. You just you can just
Pistons absolutely fleece the Knicks. That's what we've learned from this segment. All right,
100%.
Moving on to what I feel like is one of the more strange deals of the deadline. The Thunder, as we are all aware, have a treasure trove of draft picks. What do they have? Like 25 in the next 5 years, something crazy like that. It's just like insane. And in this deal, they get Gordon Hayward, a guy who is very much past his prime. We can talk about the injury history he has all we want. But for the Hornets, he did not contribute to winning, but he did contribute to solid points as a spot starter and off the bench, especially is where I think he'll be very effective in OKC. But they give up no first-round picks in this deal. It blows my mind how they have all of this capital and gave up 0 firsts in this deal. It was I do not know how to pronounce his name. I do know he is a solid player. Micic. Jason, how do you pronounce that one? Micic. Thank you. Trey Mann and Davis Bertans, who I, as a Wizards fan, am very familiar with the deal that he was given. And he's just been tossed around as a salary guy that no one wants. So he'll get bought out, something like that. And they got 2 seconds. So it really blows my mind how the Thunder gave up no firsts for a guy who can contribute to scoring the basketball pretty effectively still. So I would give the Thunder an A in this deal. And the Hornets, again, it's kind of a similar theme with what they've been doing. It's a C+ for me.
Yeah, I think I think the reason why the Hayward deal was kind of weird was because he was a buyout candidate for a couple weeks now. It was like being reported. So this was probably one of those like, oh, like, okay, you're gonna buy him out, but like we want him, so we'll give you like a little bit. But really, Trey Mann's the only valuable piece in my opinion in this deal. Like I feel like he's that dude that will give you like 25 one night and everyone's gonna freak out, but then the next game he'll drop like a fat donut. So he's like a really up and down guy. So like there's maybe potential there, and Charlotte's really the place for him if he was gonna blossom into anything. But I agree with your grades. I'd probably give the Thunder like an A, and then the Hornets like a C.
I agree with basically all of that. I'm a Thunder fan, actually, myself, so I was pretty happy with this trade. Gordon Hayward, solid 15 points off the bench. Yeah, I'll take that all day, every day. Micic, he's a solid shooter, contribute for a few years. He's a little bit up there in age, so obviously not much there. Trey Mann, young, can score. I mean, it's not a terrible trade for the Hornets, but they could have gotten more, I feel like. So I'm going to give them a C, and I'll give the Thunder an A-.
All right. So I gave the Thunder an A, basically for the exact same reasons. The guy was pretty solid. Didn't have to give up a first or anything like that. Now, the part where we defer was when we look at the Hornets. I'm gonna just be honest here. CBS Sports just kind of lied to me if this is the case. If this is how most people feel like. But I gave it an A just because, first of all, picks is always fun. And a team that's trash, you need picks. And the guys that when I looked them up on for stats, they all seemed relatively like decent. Nothing crazy, but you just kind of want that on your side for being a bad team. You just want to get as much random things as you can, and hopefully one of them works. So I was like, that seems like just an A, an average A, but an A.
Ryan, how many rounds are in the NBA draft? Okay, so I just wanted to make sure you're not valuing a second round pick like it is in the NFL. You're like, whoa, they got a second? That's really high.
I
just want to make sure.
I double checked that before I did anything. I'm pretty sure it is 2 rounds. But if I go and say some dumb thing, and then I'm gonna get flamed even harder than I already am.
Well, they might add like a 3rd round for the undrafted people. That's what they're working on. So
true.
That, yeah.
So maybe the seconds will be like a first.
Exactly.
Not really. So yeah, that's the Hayward trade. And now this one I feel like will end up being the most impactful to a championship team. Buddy Hield finally got traded after like 5 deadlines straight of not getting traded, and everyone going, why didn't Buddy Hield get traded? Like how many years do y'all think that man has been on the block? It blows my mind.
It feels like every year of his career, to be honest. I mean, he did get sent over from Sacramento to Indiana,
right?
But outside of that, it just is always like Buddy Hield. Who's going to trade for Buddy Hield? Who needs shooting? It's like, yeah.
Yeah. So the Sixers were an obvious candidate to get him pretty much the whole year. And they did pull the trigger, and this, especially after the loss of Embiid for at least the rest of the regular season, will end up, I think, being the most impactful move for winning, because if you can get him back for the playoffs, this lineup is pretty scary. Just that extra boost of shooting is really what the Sixers needed, I think, to push themselves over the top, even before he got there. with a healthy Embiid, I felt like this was the year for them. This is the year that everything was clicking with team chemistry, and solid defense, solid coaching with Nick Nurse. So I would give the Sixers in this trade for getting Buddy Hield an A, a very obvious win now move should Embiid come back, and to keep them afloat while he's away. The Pacers, it was an interesting choice for them to deal him now when they are trying to make win now moves like we talked about with Siakam. But I think it does make sense when you look at what happened. First of all, Furkan Korkmaz is free. We can talk about that for a second. That man has requested a trade how many times? Like 3 different times. And the Sixers front office is just like, who are you? So I thought that was pretty funny. But they get Doug McDermott for the Spurs, which I think is an interesting kind of parallel to giving up the shooting of Buddy and getting a cheaper guy like Doug, who we talked about this before we hit record, Jason and I. But he's an anomaly to me because most veterans that kind of flip teams very often usually contribute a lot to defense off the bench. Doug McDermott has no defensive value, yet he is somehow very valuable to a lot of teams as like a ninth man type of guy. So I think it was a win for the Pacers in that regard, and they got some picks and cash. So I'd give them a B minus. And the Spurs, I can't really say a whole lot on what they're doing. Marcus Morris is just kind of a guy to me. He doesn't really give a ton of value. I'd give them a C minus.
Yeah, similar. I kind of agree with that with the 76ers. Embiid's been really good this year. Unfortunately, that meniscus tear. But yeah, I mean, it's always funny. We were talking about Buddy Hield on the trade block. Like, sometimes when I'm thinking about Buddy Hield, I'm like, why would I trade this dude? Like, he is like that good when it comes to shooting. It makes no sense. Like, that's like one of the more valued things in the league nowadays, and he's like one of the best at it. One of the best all time to do it, really, if you look at his numbers. So it's kind of weird how he's always on the trade block. But yeah, no, I think the 76ers got, I'm not going to say a steal or anything, but he's like a really good player for them to play along Maxey for a little while. So yeah, they definitely get an A. And then the Pacers, I think this is mostly just freeing room for Benedict Mathurin to kind of hopefully take that emerge that they want. So I'd give it like a B for them. And like you said, they got Doug McDermott. And then the Spurs is, like a C. I mean, Marcus Morris, all right guy.
Yeah.
I agree for the most part. Obviously, Buddy Hield's a great shooter. He'll fit in perfectly with that system that they've got going on in Philadelphia. That's an A. Korkmaz, there's not much there. Dougie McBuckets, he can shoot. He's a 3-and-D without the D. He's
seriously.
there. He can shoot the ball really well. Couple seconds, not much there. I'd give it a C to a C plus for the Pacers. And, obviously Marcus Morris hasn't really been anything since 2016. So that's a C. Not much.
All right, my turn. All right, so I gave this. I'm obviously the most analyzed person here. I've done my research, I swear.
We saved the best for last for a reason.
Exactly. Anyway, the Sixers, I gave a B plus just because they have been dealing with some injuries, and I actually know, Buddy. I actually recognized the name when I saw it. So
you know him?
I reckon. Yeah, I have him on speed dial.
He's
okay.
Buddy.
Yeah, he's my buddy. Exactly. I just say, oh yeah, that's Buddy over there. So I was like, it makes sense. They get a pretty solid dude at offense. I gave the Pacers a B minus, just because I think the Sixers got a little bit more value for what they needed. Then the Spurs, I just gave them a B because it's kind of just mid. Picks are fun, and player. Did not do research in Morris. I just think he was pretty average.
Yeah, you didn't really need to do any research on him. He's just kind of there.
He exists.
I looked at the name and I'm like, yeah, I think this just sounds average basketball player, like something like the NBA, 2K or something would just randomly auto generate to be like.
He's an auto generated guy at this point.
Exactly.
He was decent, but as of now, he is a player of all time. And this is the last trade that we'll be talking about. And this one it makes me happy because the Mavericks finally make a move that makes so much sense. PJ Washington is a guy that feels like he is a team away from really blossoming as a massive piece of a team that can make it all the way. Luka and Kyrie have needed like a couple more guys just to push them over the top, and they got that in this deadline. They give up Grant Williams, a guy who they wanted off their team, and Seth Curry, a shooter, as well as a 2027 first, which could end up being valuable, but I really see it as a massive, massive win for the Mavericks. And they get 2 seconds, which, as Ryan knows, super valuable. So on top of getting PJ, a guy with massive potential still, I would give the Mavericks an A+.
I hate this trade for the Mavericks.
Really?
I hate this trade for the Mavericks. I think
Wow.
that this trade is a D- for the Mavericks, and I'll tell you exactly why. Okay, so you get Daniel Gafford earlier at the deadline. I thought that was a pretty solid move. They didn't give up too much for it.
I would agree.
You know, you have the growth of Derek Lively coming around, but I mostly hate it just because of the Mavericks system. You know, they tend to like kind of make their place very centered around Luka. Like Luka has the ball in his hands a lot, and it's like if you're not Luka, Kyrie, or Derek Lively, it's kind of like weird. Like the other players, like they just kind of stash them in the corner. It's like interesting. So like really shooting is something that's really valued on the Mavericks because they love kicking to the corner. Like whenever Luka drives, that's just kind of their thing. And so I just think giving up Grant Williams, who statistically this season is averaging around the same as PJ Washington, believe it or not, with actually a higher 3-point percentage. I don't know how I feel about this for them. And then that pick, you know, they already gave up so many of their first rounders for Kyrie. Well, maybe not so many, but a good bit. I think if the pick is in 2027 for this trade, anything could happen by 2027. I don't know. I think that they could have done better with that pick, but maybe I'll up it to a D+. How about that?
That's so interesting, though. We have polar opposite views on this deal.
I just feel like giving up Grant Williams, who I know maybe they didn't want. I think what they call him the other day, a yapper.
Yeah,
I don't know if you all saw that. I think they called him a yapper or something. Like he yaps a lot, but I don't know. I like Grant Williams as a player, and I mean, I look at what he's doing on the Hornets right now. They're 3-0 since this trade. I don't know. I just feel like I think they gave up, maybe not the better player in the deal, but the pick on top of it, I think makes it more in the Hornets' favor.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Oh,
sorry. No, you haven't gone yet. My fault.
Yeah. I'm probably more in the middle of this, to the point where I'd say the Mavericks wanted a 4. They wanted like a solid 4, and they also wanted Grant Williams gone. So they kind of accomplished what they wanted to do. But at the same time, they didn't like get a guy who can really make a huge difference on the game. I mean, he can rebound. He's a big player for a 4. I think he can make an impact in the playoffs, but I don't know how much of an impact. And then you go over to the Hornets side. Seth Curry, obviously, great shooter. I mean, his brother is pretty good, but I'd say he's better. Not really, though. And then, who's it? Let me see it real quick.
Yeah,
my bad. Grant Williams, who's around the same caliber, just didn't get along great with Luka, I think. So I'd say both trades are probably around a B. It's kind of a nothing trade in my opinion.
All right. Obviously, the Hornets, get an A+ for this. They got Curry and they got a first rounder. It's obviously
they got Steph Curry.
Yeah, they got the legend Curry, man. It's awesome. No,
Ryan's like, I don't know. He was on the Mavericks. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I don't know how that part happened. I kind of skipped that part when I was watching, but no, mistyped in my notes. I gave the Mavs a B equal. That was supposed to be a B+, but B equal is probably fair.
Okay.
And then I gave the Hornets a B-, just because they're clearly not trying to win anything like soon.
They're just
end of sentence. They are not winning.
Yeah, they're just getting picks, and I mean the Mavs got PJ Walker and some second round picks, which are probably decent.
PJ Walker, NFL legend PJ Walker.
I did say PJ Walker.
They finally got a guy who can captain the offense.
Yeah, exactly.
Great thrower of the basketball.
Can we briefly mention the OG Anunoby trade? I feel like that's...
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's actually... Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I mean, so they gave out OG Anunoby, and then the Raptors got RJ Barrett and Emmanuel quickly, and I think some picks. I believe that
Yeah.
was the deal. But no, I thought that was like when I think like the needle movers of the deadline, like that was pretty big. And then when you accompany that with their Bojan and Alec Burks, like I think they overall probably had like one of the better deadlines, like as far as like just getting things. I'd give the Knicks probably like honestly like an A plus for that. OG Anunoby's a really underrated player. He's 3-D with the D. So
Yeah, I spaced on including him. Thank you for mentioning that because he probably is the most impactful player traded at the deadline. And I would agree with your grade. He gets an A plus. I mean, in theory, some of the guys that the Knicks moved off of can contribute a lot to winning basketball, but it's too little, too late for RJ Barrett to develop into that guy. They needed him to be a trade piece more so than a guy for their own team, and sending him back home to Canada was really the best they could have done with him, along with everything else that they said in the deal. So I would give the Knicks an A for that as well.
Yeah, I agree. RJ Barrett. I mean, he's like at this point a little bit worse version of OG Anunoby. I feel like. So I think that trade is good. Only thing I would have tried to do is not get rid of Emmanuel quickly. He's a really good. I mean, I think
that was a tough one. Yeah,
he's a great offensive weapon. He has a great future. He's only like 22. I mean, he could end up being a superstar, but for now, I would say A and B plus, or A for the Knicks, B plus for the Raptors.
I did not have this one in my notes because I was not aware that we were going to do it. So I'm going to just bullshit real quick. Obviously, this was the trade of the century. You know, I think the what are the teams?
The Raptors are now championship contenders.
Okay, Knicks and Raptors. Okay, so I think the Knicks basically won the trade. You know, A plus, and then the Raptors. You know, they're in Canada, so they probably get like less than an A plus because they're better. So
you could argue that this was like an AA trade, honestly. Maybe even
you really can. It fits the agenda of both teams, which I feel like has been kind of a common theme with the deadline. A lot of team friendly trades for both sides. So.
Yeah, if you let me finish, I would have said that.
Oh, of course. I'm so sorry. I'm stealing your analysis.
Yeah, no, I'm so elite with that.
Okay, so now it's not quite midseason, a little beyond that, but I think that means our opinions would be even more educated. At the All-Star break, I thought it'd be a good idea to give out our a little early NBA awards, something that's always fun. So I'd like to kick it off with the MVP, the most impactful award. Obviously, we can talk about the games requirement, but really, it's just kind of I feel like a one-sided argument towards not really a great thing, but it can be sometimes. So we can talk about that. But in terms of who I think wins MVP at this moment, to me, the best player has been Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He has 31 points a game this season, 5.5 boards, 6.5 assists. He's captaining the second best team in the West, one of, if not the youngest teams in basketball, if I'm not mistaken. And he's doing all this on solid efficiency, and not to mention being not a complete liability on defense like a lot of the recent MVPs. Not to trash Jokic, he's obviously in this conversation still, but he has never been a defensive-focused guy. And Shai this year has arguably been one of the best defensive guards in the league and has cemented himself in that conversation. He is playing kind of like a Marcus Smart Defensive Player of the Year vibe from, I don't remember how long ago it was, but very recently. So to me, Shai has been the MVP, but this is very subject to change given how the Mavericks have operated the deadline. If they climb up the standings to, I would say, around the 4th seed, it should be Luka.
Yeah, that's very fair. I'm kind of like I feel you on the Shai and Luka. I'm still Jokic. I don't. We're talking about. I think they're the 2 seed right now. They're in that 1 through 4. It's like you lose one game and you're like you drop to the bottom. Like that's how close they all are right now. But he's just always just been. He's the guy. Like when I think of the Nuggets and I take him out, like how good are they? And you could argue that for Shea as well, but I feel like the Thunder have like a lot of these like really impactful pieces, and like the Nuggets, they have Jamal Murray and MPJ, but when you take that out and like Aaron Gordon, it's like I just feel like Jokic is like the centerpiece, and he's averaging I think 26, 12, and 9 right now or something like that. Like that's just insane. And like when you watch the eye test, like he just makes it seem effortless. And I know that's not the reason to see him MVP, but I feel like when you think about like his value for that Nuggets team, it is just so much higher than like anything else. Maybe Luka is my second runner up, but I mean Shea's been balling too. So
Yeah.
yep.
I don't want to be boring, but I am also going to say Jokic. I mean, his impact he's almost averaging a triple double as a big man. That's not very common. He's won two straight at this point, yeah.
Embiid had the last, but before
Embiid.
that, yeah.
Two straight.
He won two
Embiid.
before that though.
Yeah. It's boring. I don't want to see him win it personally. I would rather see Shea or Luka win it, just because I mean they're just very dynamic players. I mean Luka can do everything except for play defense, and Shea can do everything. So it's gonna be Jokic, I feel like, but I would love to see it be one of the other guys. Just throwing it out there.
So clearly, I need to watch more Thunder basketball games because I know who you're all talking about. And when I looked at his stats, I'm like, this dude's kind of crazy, but I just haven't actually watched a lot of those games.
God, Ryan.
But with that being said, I think it's like for me, I think it's Jokic as well. I mean, the games I have seen have either been Atlanta losing or the Nuggets, and he makes it just so it doesn't look like he actually is like trying in the game most of the time. Like, and I just remember watching him like finals last year as well. He's just doing a side quest at this point, and I think the side quest demands him to get a third, MVP at this point. I would shout out Embiid, but he has no knees, so
He was on track to win it. I think we can
I
all
was
agree
gonna
on
say,
that. He was the clear favorite before the injury.
yeah, because watching him, I also watching him, I'm like, he would win MVP if he, had knees.
Yeah, very true. So, I did want to mention, I think it's interesting how you talked about value, Ethan, in terms of what would happen to this team if you took him off the team. And I think that helps Luka's argument more than anyone else's, because if you take Luka off that basketball team, they are bottom 4 in the West, even with all the talent that they've accumulated. Maybe this changes after the deadline. But again, if you want to talk about pure offensive brilliance, climb a couple seeds, and I think the voters look at Luka. So that's the MVP. Rookie of the year, it's been a close race for the majority of the season between Wemby, obviously, and Chet, who is having his rookie year a year late. Whether or not he is a real rookie, the NBA considers him as such, so I will value him as such. And followed closely by shout out to Jaime Jaquez. Jason, you mentioned him earlier. He has been a brilliant piece for a Heat team that really needed a guy like him. But at this point, Wemby would be in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation if the Spurs could win basketball games. Like this dude, we all know he's a unicorn, but averaging 3 blocks a game as a rookie is nuts. Like that's the thing that I look at the most. Like that man the other week had a triple double with blocks. Like we can look at that one game and see the potential that everyone knows that he has. He's averaging 20 points, 10 boards, 3 blocks. He's a future superstar. He's past Chet pretty convincingly by this point to me.
Yeah, I think all the beginning of the season, it was like a really close race. But I think really this past month, like you said, he had that triple-double with blocks. This past month, he's really picked up his offensive game. You're starting to see more like different clips of him like dribbling through the legs, step back threes, and like knocking them down. Like he's starting to kind of find like his own in the league a little bit more. So I think this past month, he's really kind of pulled away from Chet. Not incredibly, like Chet's moving up with him, but I think Wemby's ceiling is like just kind of climbing up a lot more faster. So as of right now, he'd be the rookie year.
Yeah, I agree. Like first 2 months of the season, I felt like Chet probably had it, but I mean, just recently, Victor's been among the best, in especially the last month. I mean, again, what he said, the triple double with blocks is just insane, And I mean, he can do it. I mean, he can do it all. He can shoot. He has some decent passing. I mean, he can dribble. It's just hard to stop a 7'5" guy who can do literally everything. So I mean, there's no other. Chet obviously has an argument, but there's no other person that could possibly be for me.
Okay, I'm really glad that y'all said the same thing because now I don't really have to say anything other than I also gave Wemby the Rookie of the Year. Y'all already said anything that I like looked at, and I did watch a few Spurs games. Okay, so I've seen him play before, but yeah, I think it's pretty open closed debate at this point that Wemby has it.
Yeah, I think so too. Now we move to what I have next, Sixth Man of the Year. An award that's always fun, I feel like. It just brings to light a couple guys who are doing their best for their squad in a spot that's not the most admirable. So after last night, I think we can agree it's Klay Thompson, 35 off the bench. No, that was actually a sick game. But unfortunately, he's only played one game off the bench this year, so he's not eligible. But Tim Hardaway Jr. to me is the sixth man. It is a super, super, super close race between him and Malik Monk. And it's really if you value more versatile basketball, which is what Malik has. He's a little bit more efficient everywhere. He spreads the ball around a little bit better. But Tim is a better pure scorer. 17 points a game, 21 per 36, doing it on a 53% effective field goal percentage. He's a solid three-point shooter, nothing super special, but a guy that you can rely on as a spark plug off the bench. And a big reason for the Mavericks' offensive success beyond Luka this season.
Yeah, I'm kind of in your like realm of kind of Malik Monk, Tim Hardaway. If I had to choose between those two, I'd probably say I kind of like Malik Monk. Really, his trajectory, like since he's been with like the Hornets and he went to the Lakers and then now where he's at now, it's kind of crazy. Just yeah, I don't know. He's just like his surgence as like a scorer has been pretty really cool to watch. My dark horse, honestly, to kind of watch throughout the end of this season is Naz Reid on the Timberwolves.
I thought about him. Yeah,
I really like Naz Reid as a player. I mean, he's close to 50, 40, 90, and really these past couple weeks he's turned it on. He's at around like 12 points per game, but like I'm not sure his rebounds and passing, but I know that like he has like a block and like his defense has really picked up. He's been playing really well as of late, so I'm curious this final stretch if he can like make some noise. Unfortunately, Emmanuel Quickly totally would have been sixth man of the year, but he got traded.
Yeah.
So, Naz Reid's my dark horse, but Malik Monk for me for now.
Yeah, I agree. Malik Monk for me. He's a lot, as he said, he's a lot more versatile than Tim Hardaway Jr. I think he shoots better, he passes better, and overall he just gels with the team better in my opinion. Like, because Tim Hardaway Jr., that offense has him just sit in the corner. He shoots threes. That's his main game. Malik Monk is just so versatile and dynamic to that team. He works very well with De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, they went to Kentucky together. It's just he seems to be the best option for me.
I also put Tim Hardaway, mainly because I didn't really know anybody. So when I Googled it, this name popped up several times. Yeah, the Sixth Man Award did not treat me very nicely because I can't even name most starting five. So
he's like, there's a bench.
There's more than like five people. Like, what are they doing?
They don't play the whole time.
Yeah, honestly, to your point, if it could have been Klay. Honestly, it should have been Klay. He came off the bench. Like, come on.
Hey, listen, if you're talking about averages off the bench this season, Klay averages 35 points off the bench.
Yeah,
bro's on the trajectory.
On crazy efficiency too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
crazy efficiency. But yeah, so shout out. I think I got this one from like DraftKings or something. So shout out.
Good stuff from DraftKings. Really, the star of today's episode, I would say. Definitely the only one he's got from DraftKings.
They're single-handedly carrying my my awards.
Yeah,
somewhat.
DraftKings betting favorite is his all of his awards right now.
DraftKings sponsorship coming soon?
Dude, I would love for DraftKings to sponsor. That should be awesome. So I've got most improved next. which is, again, another fun award. It highlights guys who've taken big jumps. I think the NFL should do something really similar, but it's hard to do that when there's so much difference in position. But anyways, I don't want to talk about football right now. This award, to me, is between two guys. It's Tyrese Maxey and Kobe White. One of them is on a team that is on a trajectory to the finals, and the other is like going the opposite direction. But I'm not going to hold that against Kobe White because that's my pick for this award. He went from just under 10 points a game to just under 20 this season. He's really turned on the heat. And typically when this happens, you're playing a lot more minutes, you're shooting a lot more. But he's done all this on basically the same effective field goal percentage as last season. And he's hitting shots 40% from downtown. It's really impressive what he's done as a shooter. And it's just such a shame that Chicago as a team and as an organization right now has such a downward trajectory. But not to mention Tyrese, he has been having a stellar season, obviously, an NBA All-Star, averaging more than 25 a game. But he's doing it on worse effective field goal percentage, and he's a worse three-point shooter than Kobe. And in terms of improvement, he has made less of an improvement from last year. So that's kind of what I base this on.
Yeah, I was really, like, when I first thought about this, my instant thought was Tyrese Maxey. I also thought about, I feel like we had a good bit of guys. I mean, every year there's people that take leaps. Obviously, like Jalen Brunson went from that star level to like he's even more insane now. But not like big enough to where I guess he'd win Most Improved Player. But I definitely want to recognize his like jump up is very, very sweet, very sweet. But I'd also agree it has to be Kobe White. Like I want to say Tyrese Maxey just because like he's like all-star this year, and just with Embiid going down, he's been even better after that. But I'd say definitely Kobe White on a team that they have like no hope, and like he just kind of came in and just gave them hope a little bit. Not really, but just a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of like Lauri Markkanen, who won the award last year, like very out of nowhere star for this team. I like it. So.
Yeah, I again agree with Kobe White. He is the only reason I think that they're even in the play-in. I do believe they're in the play-in right now. He is the only reason they are there, and his improvement, obviously averaging 10 more points per game. I love Kobe White, and seriously, you can clip that. I love Kobe White. I've loved him since Carolina. He's a really good player. Maxey, obviously, great player. I don't know if he really fits into the most improved player, just because he was already averaging 20. I think he was a star. And so it's got to be Kobe White for me.
Ryan's about to give the award to LeBron.
Dude, that LeBron guy, he's really not. The reason why he's laughing is because I just have my notes chilling over here, and I do not have the same guy. So now I have to argue why I think Tyrese Maxey.
It's not a hard argument. I mean, that's like valid.
Yeah, we've mentioned him. All three of us have talked about Maxey and what he's done.
So it's like it's not egregious. It's just I have to think about why I picked him over the other guy, and
fire away. Let's hear it.
Basically, I didn't hear about either of them last year, and this year I know who Tyrese Maxey is. So
he didn't watch basketball last year.
I knew that part. That's why I know it is because like the Sixers, had a lot of injuries, and he's somehow the one stepping up and taking things, in charge. Big man in charge because Embiid's, legless. Like, So I thought that was, the fact that they're still afloat. Has a lot to do with him, and I think you can appreciate a player for doing that. So
that's a good argument. Yeah. Don't doubt yourself, buddy. That's a good argument. So that's most improved. 3 left, and we'll start off with defensive player of the year. And to me, at this point, this one's a no-brainer. Rudy Gobert's been the best player on the defensive side of the basketball for the best defensive team in the NBA. 9 defensive boards, 2 blocks a game. I mean, he's no Wemby in that department. No one probably will be for the foreseeable future. But and I do actually want to shout out Wemby again for this category. If the Spurs were a decent team and these were still his averages, he would be in this conversation. And I also want to shout out Shea again for guards this year being amongst, if not the best, on the defensive end. But Rudy, his plus-minus for defense has been amongst the best in basketball, and he's just an absolute anchor, as he always has been.
Yeah, I'm happy. Kind of last year was kind of a weird year for him, really, just with everything. But he's kind of come back to his own this year. So yeah, he's definitely my pick too. I'd say yeah, like Chet Holmgren. He's not quite Wimby level with blocks, but I think he's about at like 2.7. But like just the
Yeah.
eye test tells you that. Rudy Gobert is just better. Like you said, they're the number one defense. The Thunder are number 5, but I feel like they have like a lot of notable defensive guys like Lou Dort, Shea now, and Chet. So like, but I feel like with the Timberwolves, I think of them, and I mostly just think of Rudy Gobert, right? So he's definitely my pick.
Yeah, I agree. He's my pick. For Wimby, he obviously statistically you have the blocks, so that looks impressive.
Hang on, we have a guest too,
But
which I called it, by the way.
Yeah, I'll just go ahead and finish this. But the defensive efficiency, like for Gobert as compared to Wimby, is just miles ahead. I mean, Wimby was the one that was guarding Joel Embiid when he scored 65. Am I right on that? 65.
Probably.
So yeah, I mean, it's just got to be Gobert.
Carter, come here. Give your defensive player of the year.
Oh, okay.
So
Special guest. We got
pretty
two
long,
more.
dude.
Wimby's
Hang on. Hang on.
10
This is
blocks in a
special
game.
guest appearance from Carter Mixon. You don't have to get that
Special
close to the
guest
mic.
on top of it.
10 blocks in a game. That's pretty crazy. He keeps putting down numbers like that. I think he's got a DPOY in his future for sure.
Wemby is Carter's pick. All right, clap it up for Carter. All right, let's go. Good job, Carter. He's
10 out of 10.
Carter likes when people
Okay.
put it down. Anyways,
Thank you, Carter. Bye, Carter.
I was gonna
Okay,
say,
first 5-person episode. He had to lock the door again. He locked himself out. Okay, so now the newest award of the repertoire. It's Clutch Player of the Year, and this one sucks to have to like research. Do y'all have a Clutch Player of the Year?
I didn't even get to see
Ryan?
the deep play, but no, I did not have that one either.
Okay, so here we're gonna do a fun game. It's called You Do Yours First. Who's your Clutch Player of the Year, Ryan?
So,
Oh wait, did you say your defensive player?
no, but it's Rudy for me. As
Okay,
well.
I'm sorry. I was busy. I was dealing with the paparazzi. Sorry about that.
You're dealing with fan, crazed fan entered the.
Crazy fan. It was a streaker.
Exactly.
Okay,
That should be the
Ryan,
class.
who's your Clutch Player of the Year?
Let's see. Is Derrick Rose still around?
Derrick Rose,
No,
Clutch Player of the Year.
Shoot, there was one guy who I actually saw hit a clutch play a little bit ago, but I'm just gonna be very generic and say that this is obviously made for Steph Curry, so it's gonna be Steph Curry.
Yo, dude, that's my pick.
What can I say?
Dude, thread the
I'm in.
needle. Good stuff. This award, Dame, I think, is the favorite right now. But as of late, the Bucks have not been playing winning basketball, and a lot of the Warriors' wins have come in close crunch time situations. And as of, I think, a couple weeks ago, Steph's had the most clutch points in the NBA, which they define as, I think, the last 5 minutes of regulation and overtime, either all of it or some stipulation when it's like within a score. I don't really know. It's hard to judge. But if you watch Steph Curry in the fourth quarter, it's pretty obvious that this year, amongst them all, he is the Clutch Player of the Year to me.
I honestly forgot about this award, which is kind of embarrassing. But the person that came in my mind, which is kind of bad because I know he had that like game losing foul a couple games ago. But Jalen Brunson's a dude that's been pretty clutch this year.
Yeah,
He's been
valid.
up there in the clutch points. So he's my pick. I don't know how to like defend that. Like he's clutch. Like that's all I can say. Like
Yeah,
it's
this
kinda
is an eye test award for sure. And by the way, that foul on Brunson that you mentioned was bullshit anyways. So
It was.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I have to say Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. I mean, he's a clutch player, obviously. I think for me, the final like 3 finalists were probably De'Aaron Fox, him, and Jalen Brunson. And honestly, I've watched more Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and he looks like a very clutch player. So that's just who I got to give it to.
I'm curious to see what the voters really will think about this award because this is like beyond anything else name value, which is why I think Dame is the favorite in a lot of books right now to win it. just because when you think of clutch, Dame time is kind of synonymous with the concept. But in clutch situations this year, he's not been super special, I feel like. So I'm curious to see how that one pans out in a couple months. And finally, we have Coach of the Year, and this has devolved into a 2-horse race with a dark horse coming down the track in terms of the Clippers being very good as of late. So if they end up at the top of the West, it would not surprise me if Ty Lue ends up being the guy. But nobody expected the Timberwolves to be this good this quickly. They were kind of a weird spot last year. What did they make, the 8th seed, I believe? And they jump all the way to, at this point, first in the West. While it is a very close battle, the best defense in the league, commanding a lot of star talent with Kat Gobert, and especially the breakout of Anthony Edwards this year. I have to give it to Chris Finch, but I also want to give Mark Dagnall his flowers for dealing with such a, I don't want to say dealing with, but for elevating such a young roster with the Thunder.
Yeah, I have the inverse of you. I'm giving it to Mark Dagnall with like my honorable mention as Chris Finch. I believe, I know, I feel like the Timberwolves were 7 and the Thunder were 8, maybe.
Yeah, you might be right, but bottom 2 in terms of playoff teams.
Right, yeah, they were both down there, right? And then, yeah, I just think like the Thunder with like it's just crazy to me. They have all those picks, and then they like have all these good players. It's like the rich get richer, I guess. But yeah. I think Mark Dagnall's done a really, really good job with this group and incorporating Chet like into like, I mean, that's like a really big piece to have to incorporate into. I know they kind of had, while Poku doesn't really get playing time anymore, but
right.
I think that he's just done a really good job. But really, this award could go to either of them. So, but I got Mark Dagnall for now.
Yeah, for me, I also have Dagnall. Just the way he rallied such a young team, and like the way that they've. Oh God,
Ryan's about to give it to Darvingham.
It's over.
The way that they've played is just, it's impressive for a team that has like an average starting lineup age of like 22. So I mean, and plus the Josh Giddey stuff, to the fact that they stayed on track. Yeah, I mean, the fact that he's kept them all focused is a miracle, honestly. But for me, my dark horse is actually Rick Carlisle with the Pacers. The fact that he's brought that good of a team, obviously in-season tournament, that's not huge, but they had a great run in that. They're, I think, currently the 4th seed in the East. They've got great players, and he's bringing all young team together. So, but for me, it is Dagnall.
Yeah, he's
trying to find a defense for.
Hold on, let me cook.
Confidence.
Okay, all right. So I'm gonna go with like blatantly stupid confidence. Give me Nick Nurse. He's just so good. I mean,
okay.
I mean, I kind of looked at it like injuries. You know, that team suffered some injuries, some very important key parts, and if he's able to keep them afloat to a respectable spot in the playoffs, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have that, because if, you know, they were already doing so good with their star players and then they don't have their star player and they continue doing better, it's like that kind of reminds me of like why the, you know, Browns coach won it. It's like he had no one really good on his team. They all got hurt and they still managed to do moderately well. So that's what it kind of connected the parallel to.
Hey man, that was another good argument. It was good. Solid stuff.
Yeah, it's a good argument.
Yeah, way to go, man.
Okay, I'm not just getting bullied.
I mean, I would have bullied you if you were like, yeah, man, Ime Udoka and the Rockets, and then I think maybe that would have deserved a little bit, but. That's I was ready for you to say like Joe Mazzulla.
That's what I thought he was.
Yeah,
going to say.
I thought for sure like best team in the NBA. Which we're gonna talk about that to end this episode in just a second. But that is all of our award picks. Obviously, these are all subject to change in the next couple months while the season wraps up. But we're gonna predict how the season wraps up. I was gonna go through like every team and we give quick thoughts about that, but we're running a little overtime right now, so. We're going to go over our quick predictions for the East and West Conference Finals and who right now looks like they could run away with it all. So I'll kick it off and say that the East, the C's have been far and away the best team in the East. The Cavs have been on a nice run, but I really don't think they are capable of the run that maybe they're going on in the regular season. I've given up completely on the Bucks since Doc Rivers has taken over. He has made this team from good to terrible all of a sudden. They can't play basketball. And my surprise team is the Knicks. I think that they, after the deadline, are very, very capable of meeting the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think that is what the matchup is going to be. Of course, this is contingent on Embiid's health. And if he is going to come back to the playoffs and play like he has been in the regular season, a meniscus tear is not an easy injury to come back from. But yeah, I'll say C's and Knicks right now.
Yeah, for the East, for me, I mean, I think the Celtics are kind of like the non-negotiable. They're just their roster's just loaded. They're playing amazing. I know we were kind of dissing on Joe Mazzulla, but he, give him his credit. I don't know how much of it is him or his loaded roster, but he's doing pretty good. So for me, I like the Knicks and the Celtics coming out the East. But I'm not going to make the mistake everyone's been making every year. My dark horse is just the Heat, and it will be until they prove me wrong.
That's true.
I know they're really low down there, but they always are, and they always seem to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. So,
smart pick.
Yeah, Celtics and Knicks for me for East.
Yeah, I'm between a few teams. I originally did say Celtics and Knicks, but that seems to be a very popular pick, so I'm going to mix it up a little bit, and I'm going to say the 76ers, depending on if Joel Embiid comes back the same, I think the 76ers could actually break through this year and finally make it to that. Actually, I think they will make it to the NBA championship, and the team that they would be playing will be the Celtics, I think. So, I mean, Celtics, obviously. Yeah.
So I'm glad to say I got one of these teams correct. I put Celtics. Okay, I knew that for
Celtics
a fact.
Nets incoming.
What did you say?
Celtics
What's your
Nets
prediction?
incoming.
What do you think?
Celtics, Cavs. I think. What are you gonna say?
No. Close though. So I actually put it into seeds, and based off of how I did it, the Knicks and the Celtics wouldn't be able to meet in the in the conference championship. But who would be able to do it? The Celtics and the Bucks. So I'm going to say those two.
You think the Bucks come around?
Yeah.
I think it is possible.
It's definitely possible. Do you think though, if they were to meet, that the Bucks would go up 3-1 and then blow that lead?
Potentially. That seems like a very Bucks thing to do. Maybe.
It seems like a very
Doc Rivers.
He doesn't
thing
know, dude. I just want to see his reaction to that.
Yeah.
Dude, how many? Do you know the exact number of blown 3-1 leads that Doc Rivers has? Isn't it like 3?
I think it's 3 or 4.
Yeah,
but I think it's 3.
That's some Dan Quinn level coaching right there.
No, it is. He is like the Dan Quinn, except actually people think Doc Rivers is a historically good coach. But anyways, now we move over to the West. I want to shout myself out for saying that the Lakers would make the conference finals this year. What a great take by me. Not good, actually. So the West is just insanely close. Like, I'm looking at the standings right now, and the Mavs at the 7 seed are only 7 games back from the 1 and 5 games back from the 2, which is a very possible jump for them. And after the deadline, I know you disagree with this, Ethan, but I think that the moves that they made at the deadline give Luka the support he really needs to have a legit run at making it to the NBA Finals. And whatever seed they end up as, I like the Mavs to make it there. And listen, the Timberwolves, number 1 defense in the league, that's great. They don't have the experience I think that's necessary. The Thunder, they feel like a team that everyone's going to overlook, and I'm going to do that. I think that they're too young, again, to have that kind of experience. And the Clippers always seem like they deal with injuries and bad luck at the worst of times. So I'm going to go with old reliable. It's going to be the Nuggets that they meet in the finals.
In the Nuggets, and who else? I didn't hear you.
And the Mavericks. I think they make the run.
Yes. Yeah, I think that the Daniel Gafford trade for the Mavericks, if that will be the reason, not the PJ Washington trade.
No, I agree with you. Let me clarify. The Daniel Gafford trade is huge. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. No, I really like the Mavericks. They're a team I just kind of like to see win. I don't think they will do it this year, but I would like to see Luka, get some get some run going. I think I think the Timberwolves are a team that I don't really see them making it too far this year. Same thing with the Thunder, like you said. Part of me wants to feel like the Clippers are almost too old and the Thunder is too young. I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure,
feel that.
but and nowadays in the NBA, I guess you never really know. So my two teams I'm kind of keying in on the Nuggets. It feels like the basic pick, but like just like the Heat, they always just seem to be like in the middle of things every year. So I'm gonna go with the Nuggets, and then I've just really become a really big fan of the Suns. I know they're kind
Yeah.
of weird with their depth, but Devin Booker really, he's the star of the team in my eyes. I mean, Kevin Durant's still incredibly, insanely good, but Devin Booker is just he's just that dude. He's scored like 50 plus, I think like 3 games this year. He turns it on when he needs to turn it on, and yeah, I really do see them going all the way. I'm a Pelicans fan, so I'm a little biased, but dark horse. That's all I'm gonna say.
Dark horse,
I'm not
yeah.
saying anything. They're also a young team, but I think they've added some moves, so I'm not gonna say too much. But
They can
they're a
make some
dark horse in
moves.
my opinion. We'll come back to that.
All
All
right,
right,
so oh,
that's on me. You go.
it's all right. It's all right. So actually agree with you about the Suns. I think Kevin Durant, he's shooting. I mean, obviously he's a great shooter, still shooting very well. Devin Booker, he's actually molded into a great ball distributor this year. I don't think he'd ever really showed that before, and he's shown he can really dish the ball out. So I would like that team to get deep. They have Brad Beal too. And then the other team that I like are the Clippers. I think Kawhi Leonard's playing great right now. Paul George, I mean, he's Paul George. He's a great player. Russell Westbrook's playing great. James Harden's also playing. I mean, they have 4 good players, and I'd love to see that Russell Westbrook Kevin Durant matchup in the final. So, yeah.
Dang. First of all, let me say that the Suns got a lot of old dudes on that team. The fact that I recognize most of that names is pretty impressive.
Oh, this is what you're basing it on. You
Close enough.
recognize the names.
Close enough. Same difference. Well, I don't know if Jack remembers, but when I did my preseason prediction, I actually had the Bucks and the Nuggets be playing in the finals. But I'm gonna keep the Nuggets in the championship for that game, and then honestly, I think I'll just say OKC. I think that's reasonable. I mean, they're young, but like they got a lot of good parts working for them. And I've seen teams that have said, "Oh, they're too young to do this," succeed like scarily well in other sports teams, other leagues. But I'm assuming it wouldn't matter if it's the NBA. So I wouldn't be surprised if they make it at least to the championship and then just lose to the Nuggets. So
That's fair.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
I think that's pretty fair. Dude, I just want to say you're doing a great job for having very limited knowledge.
thank you. I'm trying my best.
You're doing a fantastic job. But now I want to see who you have winning those matchups and who you have winning it all. I think the Celtics are bar none the best team in the NBA. They make it to the finals, and I don't know. I have this feeling about the Lakers last year. How they would be a lower seed that would make a considerable run at it. Obviously, they lost in the conference finals, but I think I just have a feeling about the Mavs this year. I don't know. I can't really describe it to you, but I think the Mavs and Luka pull through, make it to the finals, but cannot make it past the C's. I think the Celtics are just far and away the best in basketball this year. I think they win it all.
I just think the Mavs remind me of the Cowboys. They're the same.
Well,
It's almost like they're from
interesting.
Dallas.
Yeah, they do play in the same city.
I was gonna say they're both from Dallas. They both just seem to be really hyped up and then just kind of fall a little bit flat. Maybe they do a little bit better than the Cowboys do. So I would agree with that, but I can't see them in the champion, like in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
Not see them there.
Yeah, I think that this is the Celtics' year. Honestly,
Yeah.
I mean, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tate. I mean, that those 4 is nasty. Those are all like 2 borderline all-stars, 2 all-stars. Like it's just I don't know if Jaylen Brown made it this year, but like, he's in the dunk contest.
He did. He did make it.
He did eventually make it.
Yeah.
Yes,
the dunk contest. I mean, I think it says it all, right?
Oh
right,
absolutely.
yeah. He's the MVP of the league. So I have the Celtics beating the Nuggets, and
Okay.
however many games. They're just going to win. So
Yeah, I have the Clippers and the Celtics. I think
Dang.
Celtics. This is the Celtics' year. They're finally going to get over that hump, and they're finally going to win in 6.
All right. I think Ryan, you said your eventual winner for sure?
I don't think I did, but just
Okay.
I'll give you like 2 sentences. I don't really like the Celtics, so Nuggets. The Nuggets are gonna win. Unbiased opinion. The Nuggets are gonna win.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's very fair.
It's a reasonable. Yeah.
Reasonable pick. Just pick last year's winner if they're still good.
Exactly.
And I think that's all the material that I have. We've ran a little over today, but that was expected with 4 voices. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad we had 3 whole people that know their stuff. So
let's up it to 3.5.
3.5.
3.5.
If you had to rate the performance that I gave based off of how much knowledge I have of basketball, what would you give it? Like a letter grade?
Based on how much knowledge I have on basketball, I would say like a 7. It was pretty good.
I would say around 7.
Solid 6 or 7.
The draft picks kind of screw you a little bit. But
Yeah,
I think besides that, it
was
was
a little
solid.
embarrassing. But
I'll take
You
a
picked
7,
it up.
honestly. I was walking in here thinking that I'm about to get flamed for anything I said. Like this is gonna be a Miles Sanders top 5 incident. Okay, like
oh, that's true.
scary.
Yeah.
You'd think we
Avid
were sponsored by
podcast viewers
DraftKings.
know Miles Sanders' top 5 agenda.
Miles Sanders. That is wild.
Yeah. I would say that's more wild than any of your takes today. So you did a good job. That's the benchmark.
As long as I'm not the worst take in Talking Jack sports history, we don't really care.
Yeah, seriously. I don't think that'll ever be overcome. But anyways, I think that's all that we have for this episode. You can see the progression between being light outside and it is now a little dark. So our lighting progressively got worse on this side. But that's all we got. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Hopefully you like the 4-person format. Lots of different opinions, but it ended up all being a little similar, but that just goes to show you we know our stuff. So appreciate you tuning in. Follow all the social media, the Instagram, the TikTok. There's probably going to be a clip from this on the TikTok, so go over there. And yeah, until next time, appreciate y'all for tuning in. This has been the Talking Jack Sports Podcast.